Okay, friends, we've been talking so much about onboarding at Anchor Training, and a lot of you have been asking us, Vanessa, how do you know if your onboarding program is even successful? Today, I'm going to talk to you all about ways to manage your onboarding program. So first things first, you have to know where you're starting from. And this is going to take a little bit of time. I want you to go out and seek some data. I want you to look at employee turnover, what the current onboarding process looks like, solicit some feedback directly from your employees. I want you to ask them how long they felt it took them to get up to speed. I want you to ask them if they actually feel like they are part of the company culture. I'd like you to even try to do a couple of one-on-one interviews or focus group interviews, right? To really dig in to learn more about how people are feeling about the current onboarding program. And the reason for that is that you're gonna want to then take and create KPIs or key performance indicators so you can help measure what your onboarding success looks like. Now that you have the data and you have the KPIs, and you've implemented a new onboarding program based on that feedback, you are ready to actually start measuring your new onboarding program. So first things first, you have to do 30, 60, 90-day check-ins. I said this a lot when I was back in my youth when I was dating. I would never marry someone unless I've been through all the seasons with them. And then I'd be like, okay, I can commit because I've seen you through all of the seasons and all the stages of a year. I actually personally believe the same is true for onboarding, in that 30, 60, 90 doesn't give me enough information to know more about if this is the true home for me forever. I kind of need a year to do that, but I digress. At the very least, you're going to want to do 30, 60, 90-day check-ins. And these should not be generic and impersonal. These should be very personal check-ins with your new hires, right? So it should be someone that is their manager that's doing the check-in, but also HR should be checking in with these people as well. Because if they're having an issue with their manager, they're not going to go and tell their manager face-to-face. So make sure you're using check-ins to measure exactly how those specific new hires are doing. You'll also find in a lot of those 30, 60, 90 check-ins that you might be able to save someone from leaving the organization, some of that new employee turnover, right? So if they're struggling with something, right, they're struggling feeling acclimated, you can coach them and give them opportunities or options to help bring them into the culture. You might be able to shine a light on something that the manager might be doing. Maybe they're giving ambiguous feedback or ambiguous instructions, and coach their manager to say, you really need to be specific and actionable about the feedback that you're giving your employees. And that could help save someone from leaving. First things first, 30, 60, 90-day check-ins. Next, I want you to go and check the data on your turnover. Are you having new hire turnover? Of course, there is voluntary and involuntary turnover, and you should be tracking both, but look to see what has happened since you've implemented this new training program. Then I want you to check in with your new hire, and I want you to create a 360 feedback tool, because it's not enough to know how the new hire is doing and how the manager is doing, but you also know how they're getting along with the team and if the team has any feedback. So really creating a process where their colleagues, their manager, and themselves are able to provide feedback on how everything is going with the onboarding program is going to give you a lot of insights on tweaks you might have to make in the future. You know, here at Anchor Training, we are all about building a learning culture and providing opportunities for employees or learners to opt into training. So I want you to go to your learning management system or wherever you're storing training and take a look at what people are completing and when, right? Is that new employee voluntarily going out and completing additional training to really learn more about their role? Of course, you want to make sure they complete the mandatory things, right? And of course, you're going to be checking and reminding them that they're not completing those mandatory things. But there are also trainings that you should be developing that help to upskill that employee, right? And take them to the next level. Not everything needs to be mandatory. There's just training that's going to be on your learning management system or your hub that is going to be there as, in case you need it, here's some training on this new feature. Some people will want to take it, some people won't. Not an indicator on employee satisfaction necessarily, but it is helping to tell you how that learner is acclimating to the idea of a learning culture. It's also going to tell you if they are going out and seeking and retaking training in certain areas, maybe even mandatory training. Maybe you need to go and do a check-in with that employee or in that new hire and ask them if they need some additional assistance or if they need to be something better explained, or maybe there's just a problem with the system and it's kind of hard for them to understand. There's definitely a lot of opportunities by taking a look at the learning management system and just seeing exactly what they're doing. Next, we want to look at engagement rates. Engagement is something I talk a lot about, and it's something that you as an organization, when you are developing your KPIs and your metrics, you have to decide what is it that engagement looks like, right? You're going to marker or track engagement based on attending, I don't know, company outings after work. I'm not going to recommend that, but that could be a metric, right? So then now what you have to do in terms of tracking engagement rates is saying, is that new employee participating in these after work activities? For accessibility, inclusivity reasons, I do not actually believe that you should be tracking engagement that way, but it's just an example that's pretty clear as day. You as an organization need to define engagement and then start tracking that, right? So again, maybe it is logging into your learning management system. Maybe it is participating in, Yammer or something like that, and, chatting with the colleagues and participating and being part of discussions. Maybe that's all engagement for you. Maybe you don't care to track those things, and it's a pretty big thing. And that's okay. Engagement is a really hard thing to track and to decide exactly what is meaningful, because you could definitely explain away, not explain away, but you can definitely explain why that measure of engagement isn't going to be inclusive to everybody. Another way that you can get data about engagement, but also about your onboarding program, is to host focus groups, interviews, and anonymous surveys. Right? So going back to those focus groups and interviews and anonymous surveys from post-revolutionized onboarding, you should also be hosting those same focus groups, interviews, and anonymous surveys. The frequency will change over time. In the beginning, you'll probably have more. I think over time, they'll lessen and lessen. You should never get rid of them, but you won't need as much data as you go on and you've really solidified and tweaked the program and it's really working as you will in the beginning. But you should still be reaching out personally. I cannot tell you how much information I will get from a focus group that I did not get from a survey, right? You can tell so many things. Like, how about this? If no one shows up to the focus group, that's a lot of data for you. That gives you a lot of information. Or if you're having a focus group and you can see body language, right, that you couldn't necessarily see through text in a survey question or a survey response. Surveys have their place and they're great for the masses, but really diving in, you're going to need a focus group or an interview, a one-on-one session. But you also have to create the space to be open, honest, and transparent, and just have that sense of trust in order to gain that buy-in from the employees to feel like they can be real about how they felt during the onboarding process. Those focus groups, interviews, and anonymous surveys should not have managers in them and should not have, CEOs and leadership. It should be by the onboarding specialist or the HR specialist. So be really intentional about who is in those meetings so that you can get that clarity and get that honesty and openness and transparency. Now, at this point of the video, you might be asking, Vanessa, got all these ways that we can measure onboarding, but when do I do it? I just launched onboarding. There are certain steps here that you can implement right away. You should be starting to track this right away. So 30, 60, 90 should be part of your new revitalized onboarding plan, right? Having that survey should be part of that new onboarding plan. That being said, I also think that, so if you're going to call your onboarding program a 90-day program, there is a lot of value in re-surveying them at 6 months and at a year. And I think in that 36 90, you're still like drinking from a fire hose and getting like so much information and getting acclimated to the organization that when you are now 6 months, a year out, you have more ease about your role. You know what is expected of you. You know what to expect of the organization. You're in your groove at that point. So you can really look and see like, damn, I wish I knew that back then. That's something that I missed from my onboarding experience. You will get that sort of data in that 6-month check-in, 1-year check-in in order to really help to flesh out or make tweaks to the program. Start from the beginning, including those focus groups, including those anonymous surveys at 30, 60, 90, keeping track of the new hire turnover and things like that, and keep an eye of it and making tweaks. Give your onboarding program 6 months to really solidify before you start making major changes. Know that in the beginning, it may take some time for everyone to like get on board and everyone really to understand their role in this new onboarding program. But once everyone gets into the groove, it won't be overnight and it won't be in the first 3 months. But once that like 6 months happens, that year happens, everyone really start to dive into and really understand and really buy into this new onboarding program, because you're going to see increases if you've implemented the right onboarding strategies. You're going to see increases in engagement. You're going to see less turnover, all those types of things. You're going to see more return on your investment that you invested in that onboarding. Take that time to really make small tweaks, not big overhauls, and then make sure you're doing a 6-month to 1-year check-in with all of your employees. So are you ready to build your next onboarding program, or maybe do a re-onboarding program? Well, contact Anchor Training today, where we can work with you one-on-one to create a learning blueprint, where we'll take a look at your current onboarding program and start pulling some of this data, this engagement data, this retention data, this turnover data, and we'll pull together our recommendations to develop a new onboarding program or to re-onboard your current employees. We want to help you create an onboarding program that leaves your employee buying into the culture and also ready to thrive. Friends, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in our next video. Bye.